All right, welcome back to the next session. Today we have Ertai versus Aminatou in round 3, and I'm very happy to have Thomas here, who was playing Aminatou. So welcome. It's the first time commenting a game on the channel. I would say you're
Thank you.
also part of our community. You're more like part of the Mannheim community, but Mannheim and Darmstadt plays together. So yeah,
Yeah,
and I
thanks for
think
having me.
very welcome. You and Stefan, you were traveling to this event, right?
Right.
And you
It was a
tried.
very pleasant trip. Very nice community over there.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, they visit us from time to time to play in our events, and it's cool to do them a favor and support their events too. So, have you played this matchup before?
Yeah, actually quite a lot. A colleague of mine, Kai, is playing or has played Ertai quite some time. So I know the matchup pretty well. It's not that easy to play. It's actually, I think it's not a good matchup for the Aminatou deck because the Ertai player has really every spell is a spell that interacts well with your strategy. So you have to play a very I would say strategic game. You have to know when to take your chances and know when to hold back. So it's very tricky, but you can't beat the matchup if he has the right cards. That's my overall take on the matchup.
I mean, the overall game against standard control decks should be tricky already, right? Like against Atraxa and Tivit. But
Yeah,
it's not.
but I think it's a little bit different here because Ertai has kind of inevitability where Tivit, I don't know, their end game is beatable. You can't beat a combo turn from Ertai where he sets up everything perfectly, so you end up parallax tied it with no lands.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So what I would imagine is that the stifling triggered abilities and stuff also is quite a big deal here in this particular matchup, depending
Yes.
on whatever you want to achieve. But I mean, most of the time you can counter the spells if you like, but sometimes it might be relevant to also counter some triggers, which makes it even more difficult, I'd assume.
Right.
So here we have you were on the draw, and Brian, I think your opponent was called,
Right.
has quite a good hand as far as I can tell. Lots of counter magic available, Force Spike, Archmage's Charm. This should be one of the 1,000 copies of Counterspell.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not quite sure what I have in hand at this time.
An island.
But this is
Occult Epiphany. Yeah, not
yeah.
too many spells. I can.
This is one of those tricky spots where you have to choose between just saying go or deploying a threat, make something happen. Here I try and resolve an overlord, black overlord.
How much counterspells? How many counterspells do you play overall? Not that many, right?
Not that many. It's about 5 or 6, I think.
Okay.
So you cannot really win the counter wars, especially if they have Ertai plus a counterspell in hand plus a free counterspell. Maybe that's usually too much. You have to nickel and dime. You have to hope they have a somewhat removal heavy hand or a land heavy hand because they actually do not have that much card advantage in form of like Fact or Fictions or something like that. Memory Deluge is not that much. So you can sometimes try and dry them out. And then they're lacking an answer in the false or in the right spot for you. But that's not always the case, and I think his hand is stacked and mine is a little bit lackluster, so this is an uphill battle. Here's some rules questions about the Overlord. We will see how this unfolds.
Yeah, I'm a bit. It's curious as like what exactly is the question? There's an Aboleth spawn. Okay.
Right,
Well,
that is the thing.
but
So he
it
actually
shouldn't work,
consulted
right?
the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually consulted the judge and thought that the Aboleth spawn would work here, but I think there was a misunderstanding between Briand and the judge, and actually it doesn't work as he thinks it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it doesn't enter as a creature, right? It's only a creature on stack.
It's
And
a creature on the stack, but not on the battlefield. So
exactly, yeah.
uh,
Otherwise, it would be. I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to him. I think like milling a couple of cards, the amount of creatures he's playing should be pretty low. Maybe up to 20, which is already quite a high number, I think, for Ertai decks. But also the variants differ. Like sometimes you see more controlish variants featuring even a storm plan. Sometimes people
Yeah.
play a bit more tempo-ish archetype with many more creatures included. So that really depends on his variant. And I have not checked your list. I have not checked his list. I just wanted to watch the game as it is.
Well, I'm playing a rather stock list. Here and there, some tweaks by personal preference, but overall nothing too exciting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here we have two good targets milled, Tivit and Lord of Change.
Yeah, you will see later why these two targets are not the very best, but I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay, interesting. I mean, the spawn itself is definitely not the worst creature against your game plan.
Yeah, I think it's actually a meta call. I think it's really very good against the reanimator deck and some specific commanders. But
yeah, and sometimes random initiative effects and stuff like this. But the way I understand it, you cannot actually steal it with right, because your opponent, like the initiative triggers from your opponent, and then the trigger from the spawn goes on stack, and your initiative resolves first, and then your opponent gets back the initiative. I think it's that way.
Yeah. So there, I also tried a Dance of the Dead on I think a lot of change or something, but he has a counter spell.
Oh,
even though he only had 1 mana left, and here he has reanimate. I think,
which is usually, to be fair, usually a bad plan against Aminatou, because if you find a window to cast your commander, you can just blink it back, but not in case of Ward 3. And
yeah, that's the thing, the point I wanted to make.
Yeah. I mean, you picked up the other target that has Ward 3 too, so
Right.
it's just a bit unlucky in this case that you milled both those targets.
Exactly.
A bit funny here. So there is a Teferi. You played the Boggart Trawler. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's mainly because of a potential mirror match, and it's a target for the Black Overlord. So there's some nice synergy there. It's really only bad against very aggressive decks, but usually you have a good matchup against those already. So I thought it would be fine to include it.
Yeah, and it's not too bad. Like you can play it as a land early, and later on, if needed, you can also like. Are there any decks? No, Croxa is not really popular, but like, well, Flage maybe, like Titan decks that want to have a heavy graveyard, you just blink your land and the creature comes back.
You're right. And usually, just in the late game, it's good to check your opponent's graveyard, because really most decks have some way to extract value from their grave, especially if the game goes long.
True, yeah.
So that's quite nice.
And you played Slimefoot yourself for quite some time. You know that every now and then there are some shenanigans lurking around the corner, so it's not bad to randomly exile their graveyard at some point. So
for sure.
What else do we see? Is the last card, is it Occult Epiphany in your hand, or is it something else?
Yeah, it could be a Occult Epiphany.
Not entirely sure.
I mean, I'm losing pretty big right now.
Yeah.
There's really nothing for me to handle this board, because I would need the 6 mana to play Aminatou and pay for the ward in the same turn, which I have here, but it's of course very unrealistic to resolve this against a stacked hand that has drawn 3 extra cards from the Ertai side. He also has Ertai itself, so just on face value I cannot even resolve this card. He has Mystic Confluence here, which basically
I was just about
See,
to ask this. That's a new artwork that I'm not sure
yeah,
if I've seen this. Probably not. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it's pretty difficult. There's also a brain search. There's some edged foil card that I cannot tell, and a Thoughtseize, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. Second thing you could do is, but again, you have to find a window, and it's very unlikely to cast Tivit, which costs about the same mana. Obviously, the line to flicker back your lord is much better,
yeah,
but that might be something for next turn. Okay, you decide to loot.
yeah. I do this now just to get around any counterspell magic.
Yeah, makes sense. It's also a bit unfortunate that your balance is already gone. I mean, he countered
Yep,
it, but this would be an answer to this current board state.
correct.
Actually, a very good answer. That's a tricky situation.
So here I decide to discard the Tivit because I cannot even hardcast it because he has Ertai from the command zone.
Mm.
So I figure I need to double or triple spell to somehow get back into this game, which is just very unlikely to happen.
It's a bit
Um,
unfortunate that you draw persist with Tivit. The other way around would be cool to have
yeah,
Lord of Change still in graveyard, but well, it's always easy to look at that in hindsight.
yeah. You cannot know what you're drawing.
Exactly.
So you have to make some educated guesses. I think I um chose the Lord because usually Tivit is more hardcastable.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't turn out to matter or to be the best case for this specific match.
So here comes Ertai end of turn.
Yeah, basically, I think he's just going for the win.
Oh no, that's a flash, and there's a Ballmaster, right? Is this a Ballmaster? I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Here I play the Bowmaster because I hope he just forgets about the Arboleth spawn.
Mm.
I mean, I really do not have very many options, but he
Yeah, he
doesn't.
also has, wow, he has a bunch of stuff in hand
Yeah,
still, and
I think
this.
he had several lines that all lead to win. Basically, on the back of counterspell into reanimate my Lord of Change. I think the game was over right there. You play on as you should, but
Yeah.
really it's all
I
just
mean,
decided at that point.
he can just, he was not this, he decided to shoot your face. Okay. Well, yeah,
Mm,
then a lot of changes, just a lethal attack that you cannot prevent.
yeah,
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, the reanimate really did a thing here.
yeah, that was
Basically,
backbreaking.
I think
I,
apart, if it wasn't for that line, you could have, like, it would be much more grindy, but you could stand a chance.
yeah,
Two
that's
Fortress.
usually it. You try to grind out the control decks. They have a
Mm.
counter spell here, a removal there, but you come back and come back again. And sometimes, or usually, you can overpower them. But against Ertai, it's really hard because they can, depending on the list, they can close the game relatively fast. So here I have Overlord again, turn 2, which is a nice play because it gets something going on.
Yeah, and there
And I
was
think,
by the way, there was a long judge call that I edited out um, for this second case now, for the second time you played the card. So I'm not sure what happened in between. If he had like a spell pierce, which wouldn't work,
yeah,
or
that I
something.
actually don't know either. I think I again milled Lord of Change, and I have a Exhume here. I think you just go for Exhume in this spot.
So there's a counterspell or a mana leak, which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Not sure if you delay Exhume here, because it's pretty likely he has a counter spell, but I do not have anything too much going on in my hand.
Mm.
So
Oh, there's a
yeah,
stifle for
there
your
you go.
fetch land. That
Yeah,
hurts.
that
But
hurts. I
yeah.
could have played around Stifle there, but Actually, it wasn't on my mind, and I thought I'd rather wait and represent a counter spell on my own, like a force spike or something. Obviously, pretty bad to get hit by it.
That's unfortunate. So you have double. You could have casted Aminatou now, but the Boggart Trawler would provide double black with the Tomb. And now you have to go for the backstreet. That would be a great window to play Aminatou and flicker the Overlord. I mean, he has Force Spike in hand still, I think. Or was it a Mana League? Maybe I. No, it's an Archmage's Stun. No, it's also a Force Spike. Okay. He has it all.
Yeah, he has it all.
Yeah.
I remember from the match that I got pretty rolled, actually.
Yeah.
So I think, if I'm not wrong, he has reanimate again here or something. Let's see.
Otawara doesn't really matter in that state. As long as the Overlord is no creature, it's not doing that much.
No, not really.
So yeah.
I mean, the Overlord in general, they are very good for this archetype. I really like them. They get your stuff going, kind of like in a mini engine. They threaten with Aminatou.
Definitely, it's a huge upgrade to the pile. So I was pretty concerned. I mean, not concerned, convinced that the deck was already very well positioned before they printed those Overlords. But now that the Overlords are available, I think it kind of brought Aminatou back to the main meta game. And I think that's also what we saw during the last 5 bigger events in France, mainly, that people are really into the deck again. And
yeah,
you have
no,
to.
it's for sure. It's just very versatile. It's very powerful, but you're not a one-trick pony, so you have room for like outmaneuvering your opponents.
Yeah.
If you know the matchups well, it's a very strong deck. But at the same time, the format is pretty resilient to also broken strategies. As you can see here, my opponent clearly prepared for the reanimator matchup, bringing his own reanimates and the Arbolate spawn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's kind of sad that pretty much the
Again,
exact same lineup is happening here. Yeah.
And again, the Ward 3 creature preventing any Aminatou blinks.
No. So that's an Unburial Rites. Now you drew your reanimation spell. I was just about to say, for as long as there is a good target, and surprise, Aminatou's only playing good targets in your graveyard, it's always a threat to your opponent, because you can randomly draw the next reanimation spell, and then maybe you even find or you have some counter magic in hand in addition, and you can contest the cast of your reanimation spell. So they always need to be awake, but yeah, stealing your target is also an option.
So here I can resolve Aminatou, but unfortunately cannot blink the Lord, but I can blink my Overlord, which mills 4 cards. I think there's nothing too exciting here.
No, seems to be a careful no, intuition it is. The intuition, Sculling Tarn, Mental Misstep, and Bitter Triumph.
No.
So there is the Boggart Bog. Now we get to see what you have in hand. So the rights was 4 mana normal cast, 5 mana flashback, right?
The other way around. 5 mana normal cast, 4 mana flashback.
Okay, yeah. I haven't played this card for quite some time. On the other side of the table, there is a lot going on in his hand, but again, he doesn't really. I mean, he's on 9 HP, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
how comes he's on 9 HP? I'm just wondering. I mean, he paid some Git probe. He shocked once, I think.
He played.
Or is this the standing from the last game? No.
No, I think
I'm just because you didn't propose any combat step so far.
Yeah. Not entirely sure.
Yeah, maybe it's not quite accurate.
But
So,
in the end, Aminatou is not the deck that can, out of nowhere, deal a lot of damage outside something like Shallow Grave. Usually, you just have to manage to get your 1/2 spell combo through, and that's really hard from the position I'm in. I mean, I have an attack here, a possible attack with the Overlord. Maybe can find some more business.
And you do?
Yeah.
Witch Enchanter is also an interesting include. A card we see more and more often in almost any white featuring deck, which makes perfectly sense because whether or not it's I mean, probably not in control decks, but like if you have mid-rangey decks or creature-based decks, then back then, you know, the good times when people were trying to, or basically just including Reclamation Stage whenever they played green mana, because destroying artifacts and enchantments on stick is just a good effect, and you want to have that.
Usually the white decks that play this card, they don't care so much about the real life, so you just play it instead of a land.
Right, yeah.
And then it's just a free value if you top deck it later or have it as a tutor target. Here in Aminatou, it's basically the same as with the Boggart. You have the synergy with your Overlord, your Black Overlord, your Aminatou Blink, and you can randomly reanimate it if you need to, get rid of a Blood Moon or a Parallax Wave or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's fine. It's not a must play, but I think it's a fine card to include.
Yeah, definitely. So there is the second Overlord. Not for the impending cost. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I was not paying attention to your last card that we do not know.
I think isn't it Unburial Rites? Oh no, that is the revealed
This
card,
one
right?
is the revealed one. Yeah, I was talking about the other one.
Yeah.
We will figure it out later.
Yeah.
Faithful Mending, Flashback could find you something. Is very costly, to be fair. Apart from the Overlord, you don't really have another great target in your graveyard for the Tomb activation.
Yeah.
Looks
Again,
difficult. Looks difficult.
It is difficult because I'm being raised now also.
Yeah.
His hand is quite stacked, I guess.
Yeah, and he has 6 untapped mana lands.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He probably has more than enough. I mean, I'm trying. I keep spinning my wheels, but I'm not in a 2 spells per turn scenario, so this is pretty slow. He just has to handle 1 spell a turn. That's usually not the way to get back into this game. I would have needed something like, here's an Inquisition of Kozilek, you have to interact with it, he counters it, and balance after that, or something like that.
Yeah.
Balance again is in the graveyard, was milled with the first Overlord mill.
Very sad. I mean, balance wouldn't do the job since Overlord is active. So he can just keep the Lord.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, maybe some turns.
Earlier, yeah, okay, yeah.
Earlier.
When it was not yet released. Like when the impending counters were not yet fully removed. Yeah, that's true. So now he bounds. Okay. A bit of a tiny mistake to do that after you attacked, because there is a chance that the triggered ability is a May, right? You don't have to return a creature. You can just leave it in graveyard.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. So yeah, Frantic Search can find something.
Yeah.
There's the risk of walking into a Orcish Bowmaster. On the other hand, if he taps out for okay, you decide to activate the tomb. Yeah, I can see that with 3 mana left.
I imagine this has a better chances, but I do not find anything.
Yeah, Okay, interesting. Very rough games, both with a similar outcome. Getting back the
Yeah.
Lord and trying to make use of your game plan.
Yeah, this was definitely a little bit unfortunate that only the ward 3 creatures showed up,
Yes.
and his reanimates were therefore not counterable by my commander.
Yeah.
Both games really kind of revolved around this interaction.
Yeah, true. Because usually that's not the way to go unless you can reanimate an Archon. How's it called? The white black one. I always forget the name.
Archon of Justice or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the one that exiles on ETB and die trigger. I always forget the name. But this one might give you a window to exile your third land or deny your third land drop, so you cannot recast Aminatou right away, and then you get an attack. And along the way, maybe you can develop something further. But most targets are close to just being flickered again as soon as you can reanimate cast Aminatou. So
maybe the right line would have the right line from my side would have been to just slam Aminatou and with conviction point to the Lord of Change and hope he doesn't trigger his ward ability.
Yes, I mean sometimes there are situations in which you go for such plays. That's true, but
to get into his head.
Yeah.
But
okay,
I think Brian managed to win the whole tournament in the end.
that is true. Yeah,
he's a good player, and he certainly wouldn't have missed that.
I think so too. Yep. Okay, cool match. Thanks for being with me. Maybe we have more games in the future. We had you a couple of times already in the top 8 on cam in Darmstadt. So yeah. To all the other guys watching right now, thanks for being with us and see you in round 4. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.